I'm Mike Schembri, and I'm going to be presenting, just basically going through an example of using ArcGIS to create a map. And so the idea here is just to show how easy it is to kind of pull data together and create a map of your own. I'm going to be using ArcGIS Online, so you don't need to install any software for this. And I'm going to be pulling data from their Living Atlas, which is kind of this treasure trove of data sources that you can pull from and combine data to create a map. If you're not familiar with GIS, GIS stands for Graphical Information System, and it basically consists of laying down a base map, and then on top of that, adding layers of additional data or maps. They can be bitmap type data, or they can be vector data, and you can make them transparent so you can see through layers and actually combine data from multiple sources. The example I'm going to go through is after the advent of COVID, I was thinking, everything has moved online and there's sort of this digital divide issue. So wondering in the Bay Area where we have a lot of technology, whether there's really that many people left that do not have internet access and are maybe left out of this digital revolution. So to do that, I'm going to pull data from the US Census. They have the American Community Survey. And within that, they describe the percent of households with internet connectivity. And then I'm also going to pull in some data on median household income to see if maybe there's an association and the two are possibly related. So I'm going to try to do this as a demo. Let's see here. So here I'm going to start off on the ArcGIS online webpage. So this is the webpage you would log into. I've already logged into my account. I click to start a map. I click on the map menu or option at the top. And ArcGIS starts off by creating a blank map of the United States. You can see, and on the left-hand side, it gives you there's an About tab that actually gives you some step-by-step instructions on creating your map. To start my map, I'm going to zoom in on the Bay Area, which is my area of interest right now for this particular map. And then right now I have a topographical map. I'm going to change my base map. Rather than this kind of topographical map, I'm going to use a light gray canvas. And that's because I'm doing a data map here and I'm not really so interested in the topography for this particular map. So I have my base map laid out. To add content to that, I'm going to come up to the Add menu and go to the Living Atlas layers. And then in the Living Atlas layers, there's tons of stuff in here. I'm going to look for the ACS, which is the American Community Survey, and I'm going to look for internet variables. There's actually a couple options here. I'm going to choose the second one here, which is a centroid map, and basically it creates dots that have color shading that reflect the amount of internet connectivity. And so I'm going to click on Add Map. And with that, ArcGIS will bring the data into my map and populate my map with the data points. And you can see here we have census tract level data that's describing with dots the level of internet connectivity, where the dark purple looks like is low connectivity. On the left, in the content tab or panel here, you can see that it actually brought in 3 different layers, one for state data, one for county data, and one for tract level data. And as I zoom out, if I zoom out enough, it'll actually automatically select the correct one. So if I zoom out enough, it'll show county level summaries, and then if I zoom out more, it'll show state level summaries. Let's take a look at the legend, see what we're looking at. It looks like the dark purple represents 25% or more of households in those census tracts do not have internet connectivity. That seems a little, I mean, that's more than I was expecting. I was not expecting in the Bay Area, this many census tracts to have low connectivity, but that still means in those ones, there's 75% of households do have connectivity. So I'm going to make a change to that and make that a little bit more conservative. If I come to my census tract level map, there's some options down here I can modify. I'm going to select the map style options. In the map style, step 1 allows me to actually select other variables. There's actually a whole list of variables. I can look at cell phone use and smartphones and computer access. I'm going to stick with the internet activity for this, but I'm going to change the default option here for the display. So I'm going to stick with the dots. I'm going to stick with the counts and amounts display, but this will take me to my actual legend, what my scale is, and I'm going to change the scale to up to be 40%. And so now if I save that and come back to my map, you can see my map's a little bit less dramatic. I don't have so much dark purple there, and the scale is actually showing the dark purple as being 40% or more. So I still have census tracts though where 40% or more of the households do not have internet connectivity. So it still actually shows some extreme tracks there. The other thing I wanted to bring in to see whether this is really a function of possibly of household income, I'm going to bring in some household income data. So I'm going to, again, go to Browse Living Atlas Layers, and I'm going to search for ACS income. And here I'm going to, again, use the ACS map. This time I'm going to use the boundary map, which fills in the entire census tract boundary. Again, here's a description of the map, and add that to map. So now I have my income data. It occluded my dots, and so I could make this layer transparent to be able to see through it, to see the dots as well, but probably the smarter thing is to change the order of the maps. So I'm going to come back here and actually just grab a handle here and drag these, change the order that these maps are displayed so that the dots show up on top. And now I can actually view both data points at the same time and be able to tell, look at whether there's a, seems like there's association between the two variables. It looks like, there probably is, where a lot of the census tracts that have low connectivity also are lower median household income. And if I go to my legend, you can see the dark purple in income is less than 29,000. The green is greater than 96,000. So that's my map, pretty easy to put together. We can zoom out from this, obviously, and look at the United States. And if we zoom out far enough, as I said, it will look at, here I'm looking at county level data. Oh, I think the order of the maps. So this is only showing so I have to change the order of these. And so now it's showing both the internet connectivity as well as the income. And you can see across the country, this is the back to the 20% dark purple, but still you can see across the country there's quite a bit, certainly much more than I was expecting of counties that have more than 25% of households that do not have internet connectivity. So definitely a lot of people not, with connectivity and possibly left out of this kind of use of digital technology. So that's my map. I can save it here. If I save it, it does require that I give it some tags. So I'm going to give it internet and income. And so it has something to search on later on. I can save that map. And then just in terms of navigating here, I go to the content tab, and that's where I can find previous maps that I have created. And the other thing I really want to show here is from the content tab, you can go to the Living Atlas, and this is the place where you can really browse the Living Atlas and explore all the different kinds of data sources. I did a data map. You don't have to do a data map. There's lots of geography data in here you can do. You can plot the recent wildfires. There's event data. It'll automatically update event data. There's a ton of stuff to explore in here. But this gives you a place you can actually look around and try to explore some of that. So back to just a couple more slides. These are kind of examples of the source data. On the left-hand side are some of the sources. Most of these are federal agencies, but Esri, the company that makes ArcGIS, actually creates a lot of this data source. There's census data, U.S. forestry data, and it ranges from environmental data, climate change data, demographic data, political data, all sorts of, whatever your topic is of interest, there's probably something in here you might find interesting. Just a few, to wrap up, just a few caveats, especially with these data maps, they can be very compelling and dramatic. And when you combine data and do any kind of data analysis, you always want to be cautious. Make sure you attend to the scale and know what what the shadings mean, know what your variables that you're pulling in, and what assumptions might underlie them. And then always think about the unit of analysis. Everything we looked at here was census tract level. So we were looking at associations within census tract, not household associations, level associations. This is all observational data, so we can't really determine causation per se, but really rich observational data. And then always, when you're doing a map, consider why you're doing the map, what you expect to find, how you'll interpret it, and then always be thoughtful about what biases you might bring to the interpretation. So I will stop there, and I think that finishes us up.
That's great, Mike. Thank you so much. That was really good. So you do have a couple of questions here in the chat. Louise asked, is ArcGIS Online a subscription service to which I could subscribe? No.
It is a subscription service. I think I'm paying $100 a year. They do have a free trial though, so you get I forget if it's 2 or 3 weeks. You can try it out before you buy it. So um,
Cherie asked if there's data for Alaska.
I'm sure there's a lot of data for Alaska. I don't know particularly, but I would encourage you to look in there and look for it. And I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Ron Gibbs asked, how big is a census tract, say, compared with a zip code? Is there a heterogeneity within a census tract?
So the census tracts are one of the smallest units, and so they are. I don't know exactly how many people are in it, but they're meant to be consistent, relatively consistent size. They are generally smaller than zip codes. Zip codes are larger, and they don't fall within zip codes. They ignore zip code boundaries, and just the census does its own, plotting of what the census tract should be. They try to be a consistent size. I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but they are what
It's
is. Do you know, Tom?
Yeah, I think there's about 77,000 census tracts in America. So I think that works out to, I think that's about 3,000 people per census tract. The smaller grain size is called a block group, and there's 220,000 of those in America.
But yeah, we probably won't get block group data.
Mike, this is Ron. So the reason I was asking is that we were trying to look at disparities in health, particularly with regard to COVID, by zip code. And zip codes in California are very heterogeneous.
Sure, yes, they are.
Heterogeneous.
They
So,
are.
it's nice to know this census tracts are smaller and more homogeneous.
And they actually have a COVID site that kind of has a collection of all their COVID data sources. So there's a lot to explore with COVID if that's your interest. I think we're out of time, so I think we'll wrap it up and maybe go to the next speaker.